I chose to do my research, my particular topic, on the use of the standardized test and SAT in the college admissions process. But I had some background on that particular topic because I do currently work in the admissions office here at UNCW, and so I knew a little bit about how that particular test was used in the college admissions process. So I did have a little bit of a preconceived notion on how I thought maybe there would be some bias or what maybe a test optional SAT college admissions process might look like. One of my biggest preconceived notions was that the SAT was biased, but I think in my mind I was focused more on ethnicity bias or bias by your different culture. And some of the research that I read, it really focused on a gender bias, which was very interesting to me. I'd never really done any research or read any articles about males performing better on the SAT math sections than a female, really because of the way that that particular part of their mind works, or the types of things that they were exposed to. So I think for me that was a pretty interesting finding that I didn't have kind of going into this. I knew there would be biases, but not for gender, but more for a student's race. Another preconceived notion I had going into this was that a school that maybe went to a test optional route, in allowing students to either submit an SAT or not submit an SAT when they're looking into applying to that university. In my mind, I was thinking that that would make a school or a university look less rigorous in the academic process. So when you look at national rankings, or a student is looking to see how competitive is that school, that they maybe wouldn't look quite as competitive. But in a sense, that was almost the exact opposite of what would happen, because that school, because they weren't requiring those particular things from a student, they were then inflating their application numbers. They were, in the back end, oftentimes requesting the test scores from the student after the fact, after they'd already been admitting them. And because their application numbers were being inflated so much, and they were still continuing to keep the same size of their freshman class, they were in a way appearing even more selective than maybe they would have been when they were requiring the SAT. I also would have assumed that schools that are only offering this test optional kind of college admissions process are the less selective institutions, really because a lot of the public schools here in the state of North Carolina don't offer that for students. But there are some really selective institutions that do allow students to go that route. So Wake Forest, which is a really selective private institution in the state of North Carolina, allows that. And then two of the studies that I read were Mount Holyoke, which is a private liberal arts college up in the Northeast, and Bates College was one of the first ones. Those are both really strong private institutions that are extremely selective, and when they went to that route, it again increased their application numbers and made them look even more selective than they already were. So that was definitely a big misconception that I had going into this process.